It tore through Corporal Diaz's throat before he could scream. The third round caught Sergeant Miller square in the chest, spinning him like a rag doll before he crumpled onto the rusted metal grating. The fourth, the fifth, the sixth. They came like hammer blows, methodical, precise, turning her 8-man recon team into a charnel house in less than 8 seconds. Specialist Emily Dawson didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't even blink. She just stopped breathing. Crouched. Behind a skeletal shipping container, blood from a gash on her forehead trickling warm down her temple, Emily became stone. Her heart, hammering like a jackhammer seconds ago, slowed to a crawl. Her vision tunneled, sharpened, every grain of dust, every shard of broken glass, every drop of her brother's blood, suddenly hyper-real, hyper-vivid. This wasn't an ambush. This was an execution. And she was the only witness. The radio on her vest crackled, a burst of static that sounded like a death rattle. No backup, no extraction, no cavalry charging over the horizon. Just the fading echoes of gunfire and the low, confident murmur of at least a dozen voices closing in. Professional voices, military voices. Search every inch. We have confirmation. One survivor. Female. Probably wounded. Find her. Emily's lips didn't move, but inside her skull, a cold, clear voice spoke. They think you're prey. Show them you're the predator. Her rifle was slag. Useless. Her vest held a combat knife, half a canteen of water, and a handful of gear that wouldn't stop a determined toddler. Her only weapon now was her mind, and her mind, under pressure, didn't break. It bloomed. Her eyes, ice blue and unnervingly calm, scanned the industrial graveyard of Ravenport. 50 yards north, an abandoned warehouse, multiple levels, broken windows, rusting chains. Perfect. Move. She took 3 breaths. Deep. Silent. Centering. Then, like a shadow detaching from the night, she slipped from cover. Every step was a whisper. Every movement, a calculated economy of motion. She used the carcasses of dead machinery, piles of debris, the very corpses of her team as stepping stones, as shields. She froze when voices drew near, melting into the gloom, becoming part of the ruin. 15 minutes, 50 yards, an eternity. She reached the warehouse's southern wall. A jagged window, like a broken tooth, offered entry. She flowed through it, silent as smoke, landing in a crouch on the concrete floor. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of decay, rust, and old oil. Dust motes danced in the slanting afternoon light. High ceilings, rusted catwalks, machinery like sleeping metal beasts. Home. Emily's hand brushed the small, intricate tattoo on her inner forearm, a coiled serpent swallowing its own tail. A secret sigil. A reminder of training far, far beyond the crucible. Training that taught her that in the darkest hour, when all else is stripped away, the human mind is the deadliest weapon of all. Spread out. The voice outside barked. "Flush her out!" Emily smiled. A small, cold curve of the lips. "All right," she whispered to the empty air. "Let's play." Emily didn't panic. She inventoried rusted chains hanging from overhead gantries, potential snares, tripwires, pendulum hammers, shards of broken glass littering the floor, caltrops, instant mobility killers, discarded metal pipes, clubs, spears, leverage points, a pile of oily rags, potential fire starter. distraction. She moved, with terrifying efficiency, a ghost flitting through the decaying cathedral of industry. Her hands, steady and sure, began weaving death from decay. She secured a length of chain to a heavy support beam, anchoring the other end to a loose floor plate. A simple pressure plate trap. Step here, get yanked into the air. She scattered, glass shards, sharp as razors, in a dark corner near a potential entry point. Not just scattered, arranged, a painful surprise for booted feet. She hefted a length of rebar, testing its weight. Solid, reliable. This wasn't survival. This was preparation, a memory surfaced, unbidden, the crucible, the final, brutal test. While others collapsed under the weight of exhaustion, Emily had carried an extra 50 pounds of gear, not because she was ordered to, but because she wanted to see if she could. Her instructor, Master Sergeant Rodriguez, had watched, stone-faced, then told the class, "Sometimes the playing field isn't level. Sometimes you're outgunned, outmanned, and out of luck. That's when you remember your mind is the deadliest weapon in your arsenal." Emily secured her rebar spear. Check. Voices. Close, crunching on broken glass just outside the main entrance. Clear left, moving right. 2 hostiles, splitting up. Rookie mistake in unknown terrain. Emily melted into the shadows of the upper catwalk, high above. She watched them enter. Mismatched tactical gear, but moving with the lethal grace of professionals. American M4 carbines, but with aftermarket scopes, custom grips, mercenaries, contractors, enemies. The second hostile, the one moving right, stepped into the dark corner. Snap! The chain whipped out, a metallic serpent striking. It coiled around his ankle and yanked. He shot upwards with a startled yelp, dangling upside down, disoriented, weapon clattering to the floor. Before his partner could fully react, Emily dropped. Not down, across. A silent, controlled fall from the catwalk, landing behind the stunned first hostile. Her hand shot out, a precise twist, a sharp tug. His sidearm was hers in less than a second. She was gone before he could even turn, vanishing. Into the labyrinth of shadows. "Contact! East corner!" the first hostile screamed, spraying bullets wildly into the darkness where Emily had been. The bullets sparked harmlessly off concrete. Emily was already 10 yards away, setting her next trap. Fear, she knew, was a weapon. And she had just loaded the chamber. The hostiles regrouped, dragged their upside-down comrade down. They were rattled, scanning the shadows with new wariness. "She's got training," one muttered into his radio, voice tight. "Not just a regular Marine." "What do you mean?" crackled the response. "The way she moves. The trap. This isn't panic. She's hunting us back." Emily, listening on a captured radio, smiled in the dark. Good. They pulled back, called for reinforcements. 6 more entered the warehouse, led by a man with cold eyes and a voice like gravel. "Amateur hour's over. Sweep every inch. She's just one woman." Emily watched from above. She saw the patterns, the hand signals, the coordinated sweeps. These weren't grunts. These were hunters. And they were getting smarter. She triggered her next trap. Scattered glass shards, near a cluster of rusted barrels. 2 hostiles stepped into it. Sharp cries as glass pierced boot leather. Before they could recover, Emily dropped from a pipe above. A sharp jab to the throat of the first. A sweeping leg kick to the second. Both went down, unconscious, before they hit the floor. Their weapons, their radios, hers. Gunfire erupted from across the warehouse. the others reacting. Emily was already gone, a phantom slipping through the steel forest. The leader knelt by the unconscious men, picking up one of Emily's glass caltrops. He turned it over in his hand, a grudging respect in his eyes. "This isn't standard Marine training. Check her file again. What's her background?" Emily retreated to the upper levels. She used broken mirror shards from a shattered bathroom stall, angling them to see the ground floor without exposing herself. She listened. She watched. Then she did something deliberate, something psychological. She scratched a small, intricate symbol onto a concrete pillar. The same symbol as her tattoo. The serpent eating its tail. "Look at this," a hostile called, out minutes later, pointing. "What is it?" His companion squinted. Then his face went pale. "Command. We may have a situation. This marking, it's Sayre School, advanced class." A heavy silence. Then the leader's voice, tight with dawning horror. "It means she's trained specifically for this. Survival, evasion, resistance, escape, the hardcore version, the one they don't talk about." Emily, listening, felt a grim satisfaction. The Sayre School, a whispered legend in military circles. A crucible within a crucible. Only a handful of women had ever completed the advanced class. Fewer still had excelled. She'd been one of them. And now her enemies knew it. They weren't just hunting a survivor anymore. They were hunting a ghost. The radio crackled again. "All units maintain perimeter. Additional assets incoming." Assets. The word sent a chill down Emily's spine. Drones, thermal, more men. She needed intel. Now. She moved like smoke, positioning herself above the main entrance where the leader had set up a makeshift command post, a folding table with a laptop and radios. She became part of the shadows, her breathing slow, her heartbeat a distant drum. 3 days of Sayre training had taught her to be invisible, to be nothing. The warehouse doors groaned open. 2 new figures entered. Different. Sleeker gear. Movements precise, economical, radiating authority. The leader snapped to a subtle attention. "Superiors, situation report," the taller newcomer demanded. The leader gestured to his crude map. Subject confirmed within. Female Marine. Initial teams encountered unexpected resistance. Tactical. Proficiency beyond standard. The newcomer nodded. "Show me the symbol." They walked to the pillar. The newcomer studied the Sayre mark. Then he tapped his earpiece. "Confirm identity of target. Specialist Emily Dawson, 24. Force recon. Full background check. Priority Alpha." Emily's blood turned to ice. Priority Alpha? They weren't just cleaning up survivors. They were specifically targeting her. Before she could process it, her own captured radio hissed. "Profile confirmed. Specialist Dawson completed advanced Sayre training with highest marks. Instructor's notes flag, exceptional aptitude in improvised weaponry, escape techniques, resistance training." A pause. Then, "Understood. Changing approach. She's more valuable alive." Alive. The word echoed in the hollow space of the warehouse. Not kill, capture, interrogate, extract. Whatever secrets her mind held, they wanted them. Her team? Collateral damage? Expendable. The leader's voice came over the radio, sharp. "New parameters. Target is to be taken alive. Repeat, alive, and relatively undamaged. Switch to non-lethal where possible. Priority is containment." Emily's mind, already operating at a terrifyingly high level, shifted gears. Alive meant stun grenades, tear gas, nets, trank darts. It meant they'd be hesitant, cautious, predictable. She could use that. She moved, deliberately leaving faint traces, a scuff in the dust, a disturbed cobweb, leading away from her true position. A false trail, a lure. The sun was setting, painting the high windows in streaks of bloody orange. Darkness was coming, and with it, night vision. She needed to act. Now! She spotted two hostiles, slightly separated near a secondary door. Perfect. Using the overhead pipes like a spider, she climbed silently above them. They were scanning the floor, the walls, the shadows ahead. Never look up. She waited. One looked left, the other right. Now! She dropped. Not onto the floor, onto the first hostile. Her combat knife, not to kill, but to strike. A precise jab, to the pressure point at the base of his skull. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. The second man started to turn, sensing the shift in air. The shadow. Emily was already moving, a blur. A sweeping kick took his legs out. His head cracked against the concrete floor. Out cold, she zip-tied them with their own gear, dragged them into a storage closet, and locked them in. 2 down, 10 to go. The leader's voice crackled, tense. Teams 3 and 4, report status. Silence. All remaining units converge on the west entrance. Missing personnel in that sector. Emily smiled grimly. Exactly as planned. They were pulling forces, thinning their lines elsewhere, creating an opening. Her target? The command post. The laptop. The truth. Emily rigged a distraction. A flashbang grenade scavenged from one of the unconscious hostiles, rigged with a simple timer made from wire and a broken watch. She placed it far across the warehouse. Set it for 2 minutes. She moved to the command post. Only one guard now, nervous, eyes darting. Tick, tick, tick. The flashbang detonated with a deafening crack and a blinding flash. Even in the gloom. The guard spun, raising his radio. Explosion! East sector! Request! Emily was behind him. One sharp, precise strike to the neck. He crumpled. She was at the laptop in seconds. Unlocked. Chaos of the operation had bred carelessness. She scanned files, heart pounding. Email. Asset Dawson retrieval confirmed. Document. Project Siren. Subject. Emily Dawson. Service. 24731. Then, the personnel file. Her file. Sections highlighted she'd never seen. Exceptional stress adaptation. Unique cognitive restructuring under duress. Pattern recognition. Off scale. These weren't military evals. These were lab notes. Before she could dig deeper, footsteps. She snapped pictures of the screen with her vest cam, then vanished. Into the shadows as the leader stormed back in. All units. Command post compromised. Subject has accessed intelligence. Priority upgrade. Secure Asset Dawson immediately. Authorization for controlled non-lethal force. Approved. Asset Dawson. The confirmation hit her like a physical blow. She was the target. The only target. Her team. Bait. Sacrificed to get to her. Then, a new sound. A deep, rhythmic whump, whump, whump. Helicopter rotors. She peered through a broken window. A sleek, black, unmarked chopper settling into a clearing. A tall figure emerged. Tactical gear, but different. Sharper. Commanding. He surveyed the warehouse like a king surveying his domain. The leader rushed to him, briefing frantically. Emily's blood ran cold. She knew that walk, that posture. Major Raven, her advanced Sayer instructor. The man who'd watched her, tested her, pushed her to her absolute limits. The man who'd once told her, "Your mind, Dawson, is a scalpel in a world of sledgehammers." This wasn't an enemy op. This was a test. A speaker crackled, Raven's calm, authoritative voice echoing through the warehouse. "Live, Specialist Dawson. Perhaps you remember me. This isn't an enemy action. It's an evaluation. The final phase of your assessment for Project Siren. Your team is fine. They were extracted before you woke up in the ambush scenario." Emily froze. Evaluation? It could be a trick, a deep psychological play. "I understand your hesitation," Raven continued, as if reading her mind. "You're applying your training, questioning everything. Good. To verify my claim, during your third day of advanced Sayer, you created a distraction using a reflection technique with your water canteen. I noted it as innovative light manipulation for signaling." Emily's breath caught. That detail was private. A quiet moment between her and Raven after the exercise, not in any file, not known to anyone else. "You have 30 seconds to acknowledge before we move to extraction phase," Raven stated. "This test was designed to evaluate your improvisation under extreme duress. You've exceeded expectations, as usual. 30 seconds. Surrender or fight?" Emily made her choice. Neither. She tested. She grabbed her captured radio, broadcast on the frequency she'd been monitoring. "Verification request. What was the secondary objective of Exercise Fallen Eagle?" Pause. Then Raven's voice, calm, came over the radio, not the speaker. "To evaluate psychological resilience when facing seemingly insurmountable odds. You were the only candidate who realized the exercise wasn't actually about the stated extraction. Objective. True. Another private detail. The pieces clicked. The conveniently placed materials, the escalating pressure, the focus on capture, not kill. It was an evaluation, a brutal, immersive, terrifying final exam for something called Project Siren. "If this is an evaluation," Emily responded, her voice steady, "then what was the purpose?" Project Siren requires operators who can function at peak efficiency with minimal resources in completely compromised situations, Raven explained. "We needed to verify your improvisation capabilities were as exceptional as your initial assessment suggested. The warehouse was prepared. Everything was staged." "My team?" Emily pressed, the image of Diaz's bloodied throat flashing in her mind. "Extracted before the scenario began," Raven confirmed. "They're currently debriefing at Fob Sentinel, believing you were held back for specialized training, which, in a sense, is true." Emily took a breath. Then she stepped out. Onto the catwalk, visible. Her sidearm holstered, but her hand near it. Raven stood below, flanked by 2 operators. He looked exactly as she remembered. Tall, gray hair, eyes that missed nothing. He nodded, a flicker of approval. "Impressive work, Specialist, especially the command post infiltration. That wasn't part of the planned scenario. The guard was supposed to be more alert." Emily descended, stopping 10 feet away, maintaining tactical distance. "What exactly is Project Siren?" "A specialized unit," Raven said, his voice low, intense. "Focused on unconventional warfare, particularly turning environments against numerically superior forces. Your performance in Advanced Sayer flagged you as a prime candidate, but we needed field verification. So, not real. The ambush, the deaths, the fear, all theater. The scenario was fabricated, Raven clarified, seeing the storm in her eyes. The evaluation was very real, and you passed, with exceptional marks. He gestured around. 15 operators with superior equipment and numbers, and you not only evaded capture, you actively reduced their operational capability. That's the skill set Project Siren requires. Relief warred with a deep, cold anger. The fatigue hit her then, a wave of exhaustion. But her mind was still, sharp, still processing. Those psychological evaluations I saw, the ones about stress adaptation. What were those about? Raven's expression shifted, just slightly. A flicker of something guarded. You weren't supposed to see those files. They were part of a separate... The warehouse lights died. Pitch blackness. A new, urgent voice came over Emily's captured radio. A voice she didn't recognize, laced with genuine panic. "Major Raven, this facility is compromised. Hostile forces approaching from the north perimeter. This is not part of the exercise. Repeat, this is a real-world situation." Raven's hand went to his sidearm. His voice, when he spoke, was pure, cold steel. "Verification code. Broken Arrow. Authentication. Sierra Niner Echo." "Acknowledged," Raven snapped. "Initiate Protocol Obsidian." He turned to TTC. "Emily, all traces of the evaluator gone, replaced by the hardened operator." "Specialist Dawson, it appears your evaluation has become a live exercise. Those improvisation skills, they're about to face a genuine test." The game had changed. The players were real. And the stakes? They were no longer about passing a test. They were about survival. The floodlights outside cast stark, disorienting shadows through the broken windows. Raven and his two operators moved with lethal, practiced efficiency towards the eastern exit, away from the reported threat. "Situation brief," Emily demanded, falling into step, her training overriding the shock. Raven checked a tactical pad. "Unknown hostile force, 2 platoon strength, approaching from the north with vehicle support. Breached our outer perimeter 3 minutes ago. Neutralized 2 sentries." "Who are they?" Emily pressed. "Unknown, but not standard military," Raven replied grimly. "Comms intercepts suggest a high-value extraction op, and you're the target." "Same objective as your team?" Emily asked, her mind racing. "With one critical difference," Raven said, his voice hard. "We weren't going to disappear you into a black site." They reached the eastern exit. 3 more of Raven's operators waited, handing Emily a proper tactical vest and a functional M4 carbine. The familiar weight was a balm. Real firepower. "Your improvised defenses bought us critical time," Raven said as she geared up. "But we're still outnumbered and outgunned. Our extraction bird was compromised. Pilot reported mechanical failure. Sabotage. That's why you came in person," Emily realized. "You weren't scheduled to be here." Raven nodded sharply. "The malfunction raised flags. I was en route to investigate when the perimeter breach occurred." A radio crackled. "North. Entrance compromised. Hostiles entering the structure. Using advanced breaching equipment. Trapped. Limited personnel. Compromised exit. Unclear enemy." The fake test was over. This was the real crucible. "What's the play?" Emily asked, checking her rifle's action. "Secondary extraction point." 2 clicks southeast, Raven said. "But we need distance and confusion to reach it." Emily's mind, already mapping the warehouse during her hours of evasion, clicked. "The chemical storage. Southwest corner. Ammonia. Chlorine. Bleach. Aluminum powder. Combine them right. Impressive smoke and light show. Raven's eyes gleamed with approval. Your environmental adaptation skills at work. Lead the way, specialist. Emily took point, guiding the small team through the maze of rust and ruin. Behind them, the sounds of the hostile force echoed. Boots on concrete, sharp commands, the clatter of weapons. They reached the chain-link enclosure. Shelves of forgotten industrial chemicals. Emily moved fast, selecting containers, mixing compounds with the precision of a chemist. Ammonia plus bleach, horror's toxic, blinding smoke. Aluminum powder plus oxidizer. Bright, disorienting flashes. Ready, she announced, placing the final container. 30 seconds to reaction, 60 seconds of dense smoke and light. Set a remote. Trigger, Raven ordered. We'll activate it from the southeast exit. As Emily rigged the trigger with components from her vest, gunfire erupted from the north. Raven's rear guard engaging. Time's up, Raven barked. Move! They sprinted for the southeast exit, Emily activating her night vision goggles. The world snapped into green-hued clarity. Movement on their left flank. Hostiles trying to flank them. Contact left, she hissed. Raven signaled. They adjusted course. The hostiles were also using night vision, advancing with disciplined precision. They neared the southeast exit, a large loading bay door. 2 of Raven's men worked frantically on the control panel. 60 seconds to exit, one reported. Raven checked his pad. Hostiles have vehicle coverage on most exits. We'll need that diversion. Emily held up the remote trigger. Ready when you are. Suddenly, click, 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 the distinctive sound of breaching charges being placed on their door. They'd anticipated the escape. Back, Raven roared, yanking the team away from the door. Emily's mind raced. Think. Adapt. Secondary exit. Maintenance shaft. East wall. Behind the shelving. Raven didn't hesitate. Lead the way. They reversed direction, sprinting as the breaching charges detonated behind them with a muffled crump, buckling the metal door. Emily led them to a narrow hidden access panel she'd scouted earlier. Single file, into the cramped, dark shaft. It led to a utility tunnel. Go! Emily triggered the chemical diversion. Behind them, the warehouse erupted. Not with fire, but with a rolling, acrid cloud of smoke and blinding staccato flashes of light. Mimicking gunfire. A perfect, chaotic distraction. They moved through, the tunnel in silence. Emily in the lead, her smaller frame an advantage in the tight space. After tense minutes, they reached the exit, a great opening onto the grounds east of the warehouse. Raven's point men scanned with thermal. Clear! They burst out into the cool night air, taking cover behind a cluster of abandoned generators. The sounds of chaos were still concentrated at the warehouse. The diversion was working. 2 clicks southeast, Raven reminded, checking his compass. Mainly wooded terrain. Limited cover for the first 300 meters. Emily scanned the open. Ground! A wasteland of concrete and gravel before the tree line. Exposed. Deadly. I'll take point, she volunteered. If they're targeting me, better to have their focus forward. Raven studied her, then nodded. Tactical sound discipline. Hand signals only. They moved out. Spaced. Silent. Emily leading. Senses hyper-alert. The warehouse loomed behind. Them, flashes of light still visible through the windows. They were halfway across the open ground when the night shattered. Crack! A high-powered rifle round slammed into a concrete barrier inches from Emily's head, showering her with fragments. Sniper! One of Raven's men hissed. They scattered for minimal cover. Emily pressed behind a rusted electrical box, calculating. The shot came from the northeast, the roof of the adjacent storage facility. Raven signaled, "Standard counter-sniper." 2 men laid down covering fire on the roof. Emily and 2 others sprinted forward 20 meters to the next cover, a cluster of oil drums. The sniper fired again. Thwack! The round hit one of Raven's men in the vest, knocking him back. He recovered fast, armor holding. Leapfrog. Cover fire. Sprint. Cover fire. Sprint. They were closing the distance, the sniper's fire sporadic, frustrated. They neared the tree line. Then, headlights. Sweeping across the yard. A tactical transport. Skidded to a halt at the edge of the yard. 6 hostiles poured out, advancing in a textbook search formation. "Move!" Raven yelled, abandoning silence. They sprinted the last 50 meters, diving into the cover of the trees as the transport's spotlight swept over them. Emily rolled behind a fallen log, weapon up, scanning. These hostiles were elite. Gear. Movements. Taurian level, Raven had called them earlier. Raven signaled, "Hold. Stay silent. Let them pass." They waited, pressed into the undergrowth. The search line advanced. Methodical. Professional. Then, one hostile paused. Knelt. Touched the ground where they'd entered the tree line. Made a hand signal. They'd found the trail. Raven's hand chopped down. Initiate contact. Create confusion. Withdraw southeast. Dispersion pattern. On his signal they opened fire. A sharp, coordinated volley. 3 hostiles dropped. The others dove for cover, returning fire with terrifying precision. "Fall back by teams," Raven ordered. Emily moved with her partner, a woman named Brooks, leapfrogging through the dense forest, laying down suppressive fire. The woods offered better cover. They put distance between them and the initial firefight. After 15 minutes, they reached a rendezvous point, a small clearing. Raven and 1 other operator were there. 2 missing. Martinez took a round to the leg, Raven reported grimly. Connors stayed with him. Alternate extraction. 4 left. From 7. Acceptable losses? Maybe. But the cost was real. Extraction status? Brooks asked. 5 minutes out, Raven said, checking his pad. Clearing's large enough for rope extraction, not landing. Fast ropes. Vulnerable. Emily moved to the edge of the clearing, establishing security. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. The pursuit was out there. Waiting. "Major," she called softly. "I need to understand. Who are these hostiles? Why am I the target?" Raven joined her, his face grave in the moonlight. Project Siren isn't just about unconventional tactics, Dawson. It's about cognitive adaptation under extreme stress. Specifically, how certain individuals develop enhanced tactical processing when conventional resources are denied. He looked at her. Your brain functions differently under pressure. Most people's cognition declines. Yours enhances. Pattern recognition, spatial awareness, tactical processing. You think better when everything goes to hell. Emily thought of the warehouse, the calm, the clarity, the way the world had slowed down, become hyper-detailed. How is that possible? We don't fully understand the neurology, Raven admitted, but we've identified a tiny percentage of operators who have it. Project Siren was created to find, train, and deploy them for missions where the odds are impossible. And the hostiles? Emily pressed. Raven's expression darkened. We're not the only ones interested. Organizations, some government, some private, see individuals with your capabilities as assets, to be acquired and exploited. They're here to take me, Emily stated flatly. Not kill me, extract me. Precisely, Raven confirmed. They want you intact, conscious, to study how your mind works under fire. Before Emily could respond, the distant thrum of helicopter rotors, their extraction. Simultaneously, muffled movement in the forest to the west. The hostiles had found them. Prepare for hot extraction, Raven ordered, moving to the center of the clearing. Emily took position, calculating fields of fire. If the hostiles hit the clearing during the rope climb, they'd be sitting ducks. The helicopter, a sleek, unmarked Blackhawk, appeared, above the trees, hovering. Infrared chem light deployed in the center, visible only to friendly NVGs. The first hostiles appeared at the tree line, disciplined, taking cover, not rushing. On my mark, Raven commanded, watching the chopper. Suppressive fire only. Conserve ammo for extraction. Execute. Emily opened up, disciplined 3-round bursts, pinning down the hostiles. Brooks and the fourth operator laid down. Crossfire. Raven signaled the chopper. Fast ropes snaked down. Brooks, you're first. Brooks moved to the rope, clipped in, and ascended rapidly into the hovering bird. Dawson, you're next, Raven ordered, covering her sector. Emily hesitated. Sir, I should be last. I'm the primary target. That's precisely why. You're going now, Raven snapped. This operation is about securing you. Move! Emily complied, firing until the last second, then slinging her rifle, clipping onto the rope. She began to climb, exposed, vulnerable. The hostiles, realizing their prize was escaping, intensified their fire. Rounds sparked off the rope, kicked up dirt at the base. From her vantage point, Emily saw the full force, at least 15 operators converging on the clearing. She reached the door. Brooks pulled her in. Below, the fourth operator was halfway up the rope when a round struck her upper arm. She gritted her teeth, didn't scream, kept climbing, discipline overriding pain. Emily helped haul her in. Raven was still on the ground, laying down covering fire with his sidearm. Only when the fourth operator was secure did he clip onto the rope. As he climbed, the hostiles mounted a final desperate charge. The chopper's door gunner opened up with the minigun, a torrent of fire forcing the hostiles back, buying Raven precious seconds. He reached the door. Emily grabbed his arm, yanking. Him inside! Go! Raven roared at the pilots. The Blackhawk surged upwards, fast ropes retracting. Below, the hostiles spilled into the clearing, firing futilely at the departing bird. Emily slumped into a jump seat, adrenaline ebbing, fatigue crashing over her. The medic was already stabilizing the wounded operator. Raven sat opposite her, breathing hard, a mix of relief and grim concern on his face. They were better prepared than anticipated. Their response time, they had assets in place before our evaluation even began. Emily's mind, still sharp despite the exhaustion, pieced it together. Inside information. Raven nodded. Grim. The security compromise goes deeper than we thought. Project Siren may be more exposed. Where are we going? Emily asked. Secure Facility Avalon, Raven said. Complete isolation. Until we assess the breach. The chopper, banked southwest, lights off, flying dark. What happens at Avalon? You meet the rest of the team, Raven said. Other operators with your unique cognitive profile. Project Siren's core asset group. He paused, his gaze intense. And then, that depends on you, Specialist Dawson. Your performance tonight confirmed your profile. You have an exceptional capacity for adaptation under extreme duress. The question now is, how will you choose to apply that capacity? Emily looked out at the dark landscape rushing below, The hostiles would come again. She was a high-value asset. That didn't change. They'll keep coming, won't they? Yes, Raven confirmed without hesitation. Emily nodded. A decision, hardening within her. Then I need to understand exactly what makes me valuable, and how to ensure I'm not the only one who benefits from it. A rare, genuine smile touched Raven's lips. That's precisely why you were selected, Specialist Dawson. Not just for what you can do under pressure, but for how you choose to apply those capabilities. The Black Hawk flew on, carrying Emily Dawson away from the warehouse, away from the test, and into a shadow war she never knew existed. The game had changed. The rules were written in blood and neural pathways. And Emily? She was just getting started. Epilogue: Facility Avalon, where the ghosts gather. Word count 8,500. The Black Hawk descended into a hidden valley, swallowed by mountains and forest. Facility Avalon wasn't a base. It was a fortress disguised as a mountain, its landing pad sinking silently into the earth. Inside, it was a marvel of technology and secrecy. Medical assessment confirmed Emily's minor injuries. The doctors were interested, not just in her cuts and bruises, but in her brain, cognitive baselines, stress response tests. They probed gently, professionally, seeking to quantify the unquantifiable. Her quarters were comfortable, functional. Tactical utilities, perfectly fitted, awaited her. No insignia, no rank, just capability. 1 hour later, she stood in command, Center Alpha. Raven was there, and 3 others. Commander Hawkins, 50s, steel gray hair, authority radiating from her like heat. Your performance in Ravenport was exceptional, even by siren standards. The adaptability you demonstrated confirms our assessment. Lieutenant Chen, tech specialist, eyes constantly scanning data streams on his modified workstation. Lieutenant Rodriguez, her Master Sergeant Rodriguez from the Crucible, now part of this, carrying herself with lethal grace. Captain Walsh, weathered, eyes holding the chill of 1,000 frozen battlefields. Specialist Dawson, Commander Hawkins gestured to a screen showing brain scans. Standard stress response. Prefrontal cortex shuts down. Fight or flight. Primitive survival. The screen shifted. Your brain. Prefrontal cortex activity increases. Neural connections between analytical and creative centers intensify. You don't break under pressure, you evolve. How rare, Emily asked. 1 in 100,000 for the full expression, Hawkins said. We've identified 27 globally. The hostiles who attacked you? Helix Dynamics, a private military, Corp. They've been tracking ACR profiles for 5 years, recruiting or extracting. Like they tried with me, Emily said grimly. Precisely. And the intelligence they had on your evaluation? That's the real concern. The breach is deep, Hawkins gestured to the team. Alpha Team, operational for 14 months, specializing in asymmetric response. Your evaluation confirmed your suitability. Mission profile, Emily asked, cutting to the chase. Hawkins smiled faintly. Immediate. Defensive counter-intel. Find the breach. Medium. Offensive counteraction against Helix's ACR acquisition program. Long-term. Deployment for scenarios requiring extreme adaptive response. When do we start? You already have, Hawkins said. Ravenport provided intel on Helix's tactics. Captain Walsh will brief you. Walsh stepped forward, displaying images of the hostiles' gear. Helix Tier 1, designated Taurian, hybrid tactics, global special ops recruits, then trained for asset acquisition. They prioritize preserving the asset, even at significant risk to themselves. ACR operators are their holy grail. The briefing was a masterclass in their enemy. Emily absorbed it all, her mind mapping strategies, vulnerabilities. Questions? Hawkins asked. Emily had one. You mentioned 27 profiles. Are we in contact with the others outside Siren? A heavy silence. A glance between Hawkins and Raven. 11 deployed with Siren, Hawkins said carefully. 8 in conventional. Roles being assessed. 4 captured by organizations like Helix. 3 deceased. And 1, Emily pressed. Raven spoke, his voice flat, grim. 1 defected. Former Major Alexander Mercer. He now heads Helix's ACR acquisition program. The name hit Emily like a physical blow. Captain Mercer. The man who'd briefed her team at FOB, Sentinel. The man who'd called Ravenport a milk run. The man who'd looked at her with faint disdain. You encountered him during your standard mission briefing, Raven said, understanding dawning. He would have recognized your ACR indicators. That's how Helix got such precise intel. He orchestrated the ambush. Your team was bait. The betrayal was personal, deep. Mercer hadn't just tried to capture her. He'd sacrificed her, brothers to do it. So this is personal, Emily stated. It just became so, Hawkins confirmed. Mercer knows his attempt failed. He'll adapt. Your familiarity with his style may be critical. Emily's mind, clear and cold, processed the new reality. This wasn't just a job. It was a hunt for the man who'd killed her team and tried to steal her mind. Then we need to anticipate his next move, she said, her voice like ice, and ensure we're not reacting to Mercer's initiative, but forcing him to react to ours. Captain Walsh smiled, a rare crack in his stoic facade. That's precisely why you're here, Specialist Dawson. Thinking beyond conventional response patterns, that's what makes ACR operators valuable. Alpha Team, Hawkins ordered. Develop initial counterintel and offensive planning. Specialist Dawson, you'll work directly with Lieutenant Rodriguez on tactical assessment of Mercer's likely adaptations, based on Ravenport. As the team snapped to their tasks, Emily joined Rodriguez at a tactical workstation. She looked at the screens, at the data, at the ghost of Mercer's tactics. The warehouse had been the first test. Bangkok, Seoul, Nairobi. Those would be the next battles, and somewhere, out there, Mercer was planning his next move. Emily Dawson smiled. A predator's smile. Let him come. She was ready. Adaptation under pressure wasn't just what she did, it was who she was, and in the shadow war for the rarest minds. On Earth, Emily Dawson was the ultimate weapon, the ghost in the machine, the knife in the dark, the one who thought clearer when the world burned. The game was on. And Emily? She was just getting warmed up.